Hey everybody, KC here. So there was an interesting story in the Washington Post this week about the whole notion of food shortages and how even though, listen, everybody and their brother was out there hoarding, the food industry kept saying to consumers either directly or through the media, don't worry about it, there's plenty of food. The Post made the point, this might not always be the case. We do have the experience now of seeing the Smithfield plant out in South Dakota that provided, 5-6% of the nation's pork being shut down because of the coronavirus. There will be others, I think it's safe to say. There have been others, there will be others. So you could start to see some shortages coming from that direction, simply because some of those places are being closed down. The other thing that could create shortages long term is the percentage of product that actually has been slated for the food service business, for the restaurant business, the cafeteria business. People are not going to those places anymore, and yet a lot of that supply chain has been developed for that side of the business. That the product that has been developed for this side of the business doesn't necessarily break down into smaller supplies that can be sold to consumers. One of the reasons that restaurants are actually sort of getting into the grocery business is they've got a lot of product. If they can break it down and sell it in an effective kind of way, it makes a lot of sense for them to do that. Because until that side of the supply chain starts to reorient itself for the consumer market, we might see some shortages down the road as well. By the way, I think they probably will. It'll just take some time to re-engineer their supply chain. But I want to suggest that, and this is completely anecdotal on my part, one of the things I've noticed in the stores that I frequent, that I patronize, stores like Stu Leonard's, Whole Foods, that have traditionally done a really good job in terms of fresh food, is they seem to have no shortage of fresh food. Okay. And it seems to me that one of the reasons that's the case is that they have developed this expertise, right? They have the supply chain. They have the relationships, and this is especially true in the case of Stu Leonard's, with ranchers who are going to get them product. Because they've always had an attitude of differentiation, okay? Always have been different than most markets, have always had a focus, in their case, on what they call farm fresh food. They've got the resources. Now, it seems to me this makes sense for a lot of retailers to kind of aim in this direction. And there's two reasons. One, first of all, you develop that supply chain that you can depend on. But the other reason it makes sense is simply because as you focus on these differentiating products, you are no longer so dependent on the CPG items that, all those regular products that everybody else carries that really don't give you any point of differentiation in the marketplace that people can get anywhere, including online, and there's no built-in advantage in going to the store to get them. It seems to me that one of the things we're looking at, and the pandemic world in which we live sort of may point this out for how people need to function and compete in a post-pandemic world, is really, really looking at fresh foods, because it can differentiate you, and by developing that expertise, you will have something that other people don't necessarily have, and that's going to be incredibly important. Anyway, that's what's on my mind this morning. And as always, I want to hear what's on your mind.